1:33 p.m. Thursday, July 16th, 2026. My name is Mark Kulak, KULACZ. This is Housatonic.live, HOUSATONIC. It is my favorite name ever for a river. It's the river where I've had relatives grow up on. It is a nod to the Americas. It's a nod to Native Americans. It's a nod to my own family. It's a nod to peace. It's a nod to the American vision. Many things. There's a lot hidden in that title. A lot of people haven't really picked up on it, and I'm naming the show after a concept that I'm working on or building on. It's not about me. I'm not putting on a show, the Mark Kulak show, like the Candace Owens show. I'm a real person. The creation is the show, which is about trying to build something real or take something real and continue to build on it and advocate for it. Anyways, this is an apology show to Dan Cohen of Redacted. He's asked me to make this correction, and I will. I don't know what episode it was, but I made the mistake of saying that Dan Cohen of Redacted interviewed Jessica Rose, the Canadian-Israeli mathematician, biochemist, biologist, neurobiologist, physiologist, scientist, conceptual biologist, whatever it is. She's got like 49 degrees, basically every degree that you can get from McDonald's. She was the one that was working with Robert Malone's associates in 2020. And I believe was meant to be the Epi girl, the cool surfer Epi girl. I made the mistake of saying that Dan Cohen interviewed her a couple days before my son died, and I'm so sorry. I was wrong about that. Jessica Rose, as this timeline shows, was interviewed by Kevin Barrett on the Kevin Barrett Show. Who's some Muslim guy, and again, I said that in a way where I sound like I'm against Islam, and that's not what I meant. What I meant to say was that he's an Islamic man in Ireland who makes podcasts about what's best for America. I don't know why. If you show me a map of Ireland, I wouldn't even know where the capital is. So I don't know why a Muslim guy who convert in Ireland has time to tell me what to think in America. I don't have time to tell him what to think about anything. I don't get it. But anyways, it must be because there's a lot of money for people around the world to make videos about what Americans should think. And maybe America, the United States had it coming to them because, we tend to deliver a lot of gifts from airplanes around the world. Maybe. Okay. All right. I'll take it a little bit. But nonetheless, as someone who roots go back to the beginning of the country and even beforehand, it's odd that he can get more visibility than I can. Anyways, Kevin Barrett provided Jessica Rose with an opportunity on April 19th, 2022 to do a podcast where she said that she used her mathematical prowess, and she concluded that young people dying in the United States was not opioids. That was her quote. Her statement, based upon her math, she's totally full of shit, though. They're trying to suggest that people were dying because of the deadly novel virus, and then they were dying because young people were dying because of the new medical countermeasures called vaccines, rolled out in response to what was purported to be a deadly novel virus called novel coronavirus 19, which, of course, causing the COVID disease. Anyways, he did not. Now, Jessica Rose was around the same time on April 20th, the day after that. She was on Geopolitics and Empire. And I think that's one of the reasons why I was thinking that Jessica Rose was being interviewed by Dan Cohen. It's one of the reasons why, okay? Because Geopolitics and Empire, with a guy's name I can't pronounce, Jorge Morick, I don't know. I don't care. The point is that I reposted a video of his. I reposted his interview of Jessica Rose that happened 2 days before our son died. And I got a strike for it. So all I'm trying to do is showcase someone that is a non-American that's spreading information in the United States about why Americans are dying, and I got a strike for it. What the hell? So I was a little bit ticked at the geopolitics and empire guy. Now, there's another reason why I was a little bit confused here, which led to my making a mistake that Dan Cohen of Redacted interviewed Jessica Rose, because Dan Cohen on, let me see here, according to the date here, he had an interview with Dilyana Getsincheva, the Bulgarian woman who some think works for Moscow. I don't know. But that interview goes all the way back to March 4th, I think, where where he was on doing a joint interview with the former NATO weapons inspector Scott Ritter, who was in the first and second episodes of Talk Magazine, maybe it was the first and third. Scott Ritter, who was in the Germs book, Judith Miller, that came out September 9th, 2001. Scott Ritter, who I don't think he's in the hot zone specifically, but, he's being hinted at in here. Stuff that goes back to Tina Brown's publications, even before then. And Dilyana Getsincheva, who I had already interviewed twice, and I was starting to have a little bit of skepticism about those laboratories. So I didn't know that and then he went on to have another full interview with her. I think it was around the 9th or the 14th or something. Anyways, it's on the timeline here. And I didn't know that. So I guess I was a little bit surprised. But I guess the other reason why it might have been I made the mistake of thinking Dan Cohen talked with Jessica Rose, that traitorous person who lies about why people die, leading to more deaths in the United States, is the fact that on, let me see here, on May 4th, 2022, Dan Cohen had an interview with Jessica Hockett. Now, Jessica Hockett is from Chicago. Jessica Hockett, a fascinating story. Her dad is in media somehow, but I won't say too much more because I don't have the details right on it. But, when you own a news station, you're in the media. But her husband is a famous chef. Her husband owns several restaurants. In fact, her husband was flown out to Charlottesville and was either the lead or the second lead chef at the restaurant owned by the Kluge family. And it was the Kluge family that sold Donald Trump the land that became the Trump Winery. So the Kluge family used to be the richest family in the United States of America for a little while. In the 1980s, 1990s, Mr. Kluge got divorced. The person, the woman, the wife, went on to take a big part of the estate. She tried to open a restaurant, and she actually had Jessica Hockett's husband. And Jessica Hockett relocated with her family to the Charlottesville area, where I suspect she probably met David Martin and Robert Malone long before the pandemic. Now, I can't prove that. All I know is that they're in the same area for a long time. And Jessica Rose, when I did interview her sometime after Dan Cohen spoke to her, she was very uncomfortable with the allegation that she probably met Robert Malone already. I mean, it would have made sense if he did. It was Kluge is a very liberal family. And matter of fact, Vice President Gore had his last fundraiser there, flew Air Force One in. So this is kind of a big deal. Now, for those who don't know, the Trump Winery is also the place where Candace Owens got married at the end of 2020. No, 2019, I think. Yeah. So her surprise marriage was also at the Trump Winery. A lot of crazy stuff has happened there. It's a very interesting place to dig into a little bit more. Anyways, Jessica Hockett has gone on to almost tell the truth about why people died in their homes in New York City in early 2020. She is, however, propagating the lie that COVID killed people in their homes, that it was that deadly. In reality, when people were locked home, they were encouraged never to go out, and they were encouraged to have their prescriptions delivered. I believe a few thousand people in New York City were killed by having individual pills replaced in their prescriptions, which were delivered with fentanyl or carfentanil, combined with do not resuscitate orders and an absence of toxicology for 1 month. you wind up a situation where the only time where people died in their homes of COVID during the entire pandemic was that month. And Jessica Hockett, I believe, was working and colluding with Pierre Corey, who also supports the opioids have nothing to do with it narrative and will stumble and stammer every time that comes up. Pierre Corey involved with the George Floyd case, that Pierre Corey who's been colluding with Robert Malone, the Pierre Corey who lies about supplemental oxygen, that Pierre Corey has been colluding with Jessica Hockett. Now, I didn't know Jessica Hockett at this time. Again, I didn't know Dan Cohen, working with Mint Press News, and Whitney Webb had already known or talked with, what's her name, Jessica Hockett back at that time. By the way, just a few months after this, in May, again, our son died on the 23rd, so it would be the following week that he's talking with Jessica Hockett. And, you know, when with the circumstances being so incredibly suspicious, waiting for call the hospital, lying about having been married to my son, dropping him off at a hospital and running away, and the possibility that everyone who knows me could potentially in this world of research, you could be called in for a murder case someday. I hope you know that. I hope you know what you're dealing with when you talk to me. Send me emails, talk to me. I hope you know that this really is that bad, because his death, several weeks after Ann Fundner's non-death, she lied, I'm almost certain of it, about her child to become the face of the opioid epidemic. Isn't it odd? In comes one, an ex-lingerie model connected to gambling 911 and COVID 911, and out with the annoying person, the old geezer, me, who knows that they're using deaths from opioids to drive the deadly novel virus narrative. I'm the person that you need to get rid of. Anyways, it wasn't too long after this that Jessica Hockett, as I got to know her, she was sending me flirtatious photos that she deleted. I mean, weird stuff, inappropriate. I'm dealing with a loss of a child. And now I'm a grandparent of someone who's never going to meet their dad, and she's sending me that type of crap. And then she gets mad at me because she said she's married. I'm like, what the? I mean, I don't know what the hell's going on here, guys. Then it gets even worse. She actually threatened to call the cops on me. For what? Because of some game she was playing with Jonathan Cohen? Who the hell are these people who screw with people and meddle with people and lie about why people die? There are hundreds of thousands of people that were just flat out murdered with protocols and opioids in the United States, and there's no justice for any of these people. Anyways, to Dan, I appreciate the promotions lately. I'm very sorry I got it confused. With all due respect, and I didn't know that you were the last person to talk to the third Trump shooter before he called me, or before coming into the orbit of Jonathan Cohen and myself. Come on, Dan. Look, I think you mean well, but give us a break, dude. So there's my apology. And for everyone else, be very careful if you ever ask for me for a correction or an apology, because odds are I'm going to talk about a whole lot more stuff. Hopefully the apology is accepted. The record is now corrected. Thank you. Take care. God bless. Oh, yeah, by the way, October 22nd, October of 2022, I got in front of RFK Jr. People tried to cut me off at the Children's Health Defense event. Whitney Webb wound up being there, who was already an associate, I guess, through Mint Press News of Dan Cohen. I got the microphone. I asked about the opioid epidemic, or at least I mentioned it. Didn't really ask a question specifically. No one else did. No one else in the world has really even brought it up in a statistical way. I got hugs and handshakes after the event because nobody else mentioned it. 3 days later, I almost died of a poisoning. Fortunately, I'm a tough son of a bitch, mixed American blood, and I'm a pretty hard person to kill, so I'm still going. How much shit you going to put my family through, guys? Anyways, I'm sorry I got you confused with interviewing Jessica Rose. I'm very, very sorry. how horrible your life must be for that mistake. God bless.